since arriving on the scene, has seen the record improve each year, and has promised again it'll improve this year. So we're going to hold him to it. Clint Hurdle.
We're going to improve. I mean, we have a plan. Our plan is to play a World Series. To play a World Series, you got to win a lot of games. You got to win games in October. So we're going to win more games in August. Then we're going to win more games in September, and that's going to get us to October. Neil, I was aware of the community service, and I just wanted to share a little story. I've done some community service, but it was completely different circumstances back in the day. That's a joke. Kind of. So feel free to share your thoughts, because I can listen and nod and really not hear a word you're saying. I'm teasing.
When you came to the Pirates, did you spend much time on the history of the Pirates? Going back, you know, the long standing of the Honus Wagners, Paul Waiters. Is that something which is part of the Pirate culture?
I did not do my history work, any in-depth history work, until I decided that the opportunity worked for Neil and I was offered a contract and joined forces here. I did a little bit of digging early.
Right.
But being my age, the age of 55 right now, when the Pirates were the crown jewel of the National League, I was a teenager.
Right.
They were on TV. The names were in our household. They're in the street. The family, through the 70s. Great baseball, competitive baseball. And then once you get locked into that, yeah, you do dig a little bit, and you're aware of Mazeroski, you're aware of Little Poison,
yep.
You know, and of course Honus Wagner and the great names, Bill McKechnie, Myers, the managers, on to Murtaugh, on to Chuck. So once we were contractually bound, that's when I really dug in. I actually had our video team put together a video for myself that we show at our mini camp every year for all the newcomers. We've been around a long time, over 125 years. We're a staple in the National League. There's great history in Pittsburgh. It was a baseball town before it was a football town. And one of the challenges that really electrocuted me in a good way was to be a part of a small leadership group that had the opportunity to rebond the city of Pittsburgh with its baseball team.
It says here in the Yahoo Sports, Clint Hurdle looking a lot like Joe Madden. Is that right?
Well, I don't know about that. I think we've both got gray hair. Joe has white hair. I still have some gray hair. The glasses probably put us in the same package, and he's won. I don't know if he's won more games. I've maybe managed longer, but he's a wonderful manager, smart guy, good guy. We've both been to the World Series as managers. Neither one of us won. We'd both like to get back. And see, there you go. I'm already setting the table for a Tampa Bay Pirate World Series in 2013.
You were the Sports Illustrated this year's phenom, Clint Hurdle. Did you feel at all like when you saw that, like, oh God, you know, don't put me on the front cover of a Sports Illustrated?
A little too late to say that, because I walked into a 7-Eleven back in the day in 1978, I believe it was. For those of you that are my generation, you can remember 7-Eleven, they had 3 magazines there on the counter right when you paid. It was Time, Newsweek, and Sports Illustrated.
Right.
So I remember walking in that day. They had the shoot throughout the week. A number of players were involved. Sports Illustrated never tells you who's going to be on the cover. It's a secret. And I walked in that morning, as I did every morning early. I'd get a quart of orange juice. I'd get some powdered donuts, and I'd put them on the counter and go to pay. Juice, donuts. I looked down. The guy looked at me. He looked at the magazine cover. I looked at the magazine cover. I looked at him. He looked back at me. We both looked at the magazine cover again. I walked out of the store. I didn't take anything. I was kind of numb. Drove to the ballpark. When I got to the ballpark, they had the magazine cover strategically placed all over the clubhouse. And from that point, I realized this might be a little bit, I might have just bitten off a little bit more than I care to chew on right here, but it was really out of my hands. I still sign a lot of them. I still have fans send them. It's probably 2, 3 a week. Since that time, I get 2 or 3 a week. It never fails. A lot of collectors.
Yep. As you look at now, you're back in your career, which you played with a lot of players. Were there certain role model managers? You played with a lot of managers too. Role model managers that you've kind of grabbed pieces of what your philosophy is?
I have learned from every manager I've ever had a lot of good things. And I think when you deal with relationships with people, you also learn some things that you might have seen not work so well, whether it be style, whether it be presentation. We do deal in a culture now in our society. We're yelling and screaming at kids, at this 21st century generation athlete. It doesn't have the shelf life that it used to. Fear and anger, motivated, I think, to a bigger degree back when I was a young player. Now, kids don't want any part of it. You got to find different ways to bridge the gap, different ways to motivate. But Whitey Herzog was obviously somebody I learned a great deal of baseball from, a tremendous strategist. Dick Hauser, for a short period of time, I was engaged with him. Got to play for John McNamara in Cincinnati. Got to play for Davey Johnson in New York. Tremendous lessons there. Then actually, after being with Whitey in 78 and 79, I got to re-spend some time with Whitey in St. Louis in 1986, and that was a pleasure as well. So there's definitely been some things that have stapled on my conscience that I believe they're absolutes in the game, that they work, and I learned something from hopefully everybody that I played for.
You get a chance during the course of a season or all to sort of reach out to some maybe retired managers and sort of bounce things off? Do you have a lifeline with certain people?
You know what I have? I have a posse, but I've actually, we do a workshop. A friend of mine from Colorado and I, his name's Rod Olson. He's got a group called Coaches of Excellence. But what we challenge men to do is create a Mount Rushmore in their life. Create a four-man posse that you can call upon at any time for anything and speak truth to, speak greatness to, or to challenge if you think they've dropped the ball or not been accountable or responsible in a certain area of their life. So I still have men that I count on, depend upon, that I seek out for advice, situationally, pertaining to game management strategies, but also just life lessons and how to build relationships with players, coaches, and the fan base as well, and the media. So yes, I do have men I still seek out and go to.
Prior to your arrival, Pirates were kind of known as developing great talent and all of a sudden just jettisoning them off to other people, get a buck or two, and then get more prospects and keep building. You get a sense that philosophy seemingly is gone, and that you're here for serious team building.
I do. It was part of the hard conversations I had with Bob Nutting, Frank Coonley, and Neil Huntington when I went through the two-day interview process in Pittsburgh back in 2010, in the middle of November. I asked them where they'd been. I asked them where they were right now and where they were headed, what their vision was. I asked them if there was any mistakes they cared to share, any things they thought they could improve upon moving forward. I shared with them my perception from an outsider looking in because I had managed in the National League for 8 years before I went to Texas for the one season. I'd come into Pittsburgh almost 2 times a year. I shared what I'd seen. They explained why a lot of that movement was going on. There was a lot of fluent movement. They weren't in a good place in the player development system nor at the major league level. So they were trying to find a way to stockpile talent, replenish the farm system, create an environment where young players were going to play up to the big leagues, grow together. We were going to add when it became a necessity externally, hopefully grow our own. Every statement that they made to me back then, they backed up with action. We have been more active in the free agent market. We spent real money in the free agent market. Some worked out better than others. I know Neil took a lot of criticism early for some of the free agents signed, but that's gotten better. Very creative trade he was able to make last spring, acquiring A.J. Burnett. The trade later in the season for Wandy Rodriguez. The inclusion of Russell Martin this winter, the highest paid free agent the Pirates have ever signed in their history. A good player for all the right reasons. The breakout contract for McCutchen, 2012 spring training. And, we just continue to find ways. Re-signing Grilly. It's the first time we spent that type of money on a non-closer. He eventually might find his way there, but Joel Hanrahan has been our closer. We're finding ways to get better. We need to win more games. We need to be competitive. We want to win a world championship. We want to win our division. I think everybody's on the same page that way, and I think the actions have spoken to that.
You're a delight. You're such a breath of fresh air.
Oh, well, thank you.